Hey, Audrey, this is John calling from New York City, and I was just at the picket line down at City Hall with you, and I just want to let you know, and everyone else listening, about some of the messages that I've seen and received from some writer friends, words like heartening and encouraging, and just words of gratitude. And yeah, just want to encourage people to head out to the picket line, because the more we head out, the more the writers will feel supported, and ideally, they'll reach their demands. Woohoo! All right. Thank you so much. Have a great day, everyone.
Hi, everybody. This is Audrey Moore with the Audrey Helps Actors podcast, and this is episode number 109. Feeling fine? Question mark on this hot July. This episode, we are going to talk about standing out. What do? Can you do anything to stand out? What does that mean? What's happening? We are also going to discuss a lot of things about the strike update. I'm going to talk about that real quick. And we have today Ollie Burrow. Ollie is a non-binary actor who just graduated from conservatory and is finding their way into the big, exciting, scary world of acting career in 2023. We discuss what actors of all types should keep in mind when marketing themselves, how to bring out yourself in your tapes, what the acting landscape currently looks like, and what to do when your type becomes popular. That said, everyone, we've got some news. The review baby is only barely hanging on. Baby. A sweet review baby. The review baby is hanging on like Daddy Lion in Lion King, just hanging off a cliff as Scar is ready to just at him and just send him into the stampede to be trampled to death.
Not Mufasa!
Not Mufasa! Mufasa! Review baby! We did get one. Ray loves Ice Bear 27. I also want you to know, I don't know what Ice Bear is, but I love it 27 times. I agree. Thank you, Ray. Thank you for making sure our poor little review baby doesn't get trampled to death right now. If you would like to save the review baby, please go on the internet, ratethispodcast.com/Audrey. That's ratethispodcast.com/Audrey. And make sure our review baby thrives. Baby. All right, this week's podcast is brought to you by Casting Frontier. Go to castingfrontier.com/Audrey. Promo code Audrey50 for $50 off your premium plus membership. Before we start the Ollie episode, we're going to talk real quick about some updates, some strike updates, some strike talk updates. So many of you might have seen the Deadline article that came out. We're recording this on the Wednesday before the episode airs. The episode will air on Monday. We're recording this on Wednesday the 5th. And an article came out today on Deadline that talked about preparations that SAG-AFTRA is making in order to strike. And I wanted to be clear about what those preparations are and what that means. It does not mean that SAG-AFTRA is striking. We will know by July 12th, midnight, whether or not we are striking or whether or not we have struck a deal. Now, this is very common. We always strike a deal at the 11th hour. That's the way it happens. It's always an extension, and then at the end of the extension, we maybe come up with some information and we hit a deal. So don't be alarmed that A, there was an extension, and B, don't be alarmed if we strike a deal in the 11th hour. That's common. Some of the reasons why that's common, everyone on both sides needs to be able to go back to their team and be like, we tried. We worked so hard to get everything that we could get. We fought tooth and nail up until the moment of the strike. That's what both sides need to go home to their bosses, to their people. That's what both sides need to leave the table and be able to say to their representative groups. So an extension means nothing. This strike preparation in terms of getting strike captains set up. If you don't know what a strike captain is, come join me on the lines. It'll be super fun. Strike captains are people that stand on the lines, sign people up, get everyone ready, hand out whatever needs handing out. There's like a table. It's a whole deal. It's safety. Some strike captains are in charge of safety so people don't get run over. So if you heard about somebody who got asked to be a strike captain, that doesn't mean we're striking. It means the 12th is coming and we want to be. It is in our best interest to be prepared in case that does happen. Because if the strikes happen, that would be right away on the 13th of July. We would hit the lines immediately on July 13th. Addresses will go out, emails will go out, notices will go out. I will have people on the podcast to come and talk about what that means. I wouldn't expect to know anything until midnight on the 12th. That's when we should likely know whether or not we are striking or whether or not we have negotiated a deal. So let's say we are striking. I encourage you to go and listen to my episode that I did with Duncan and Ray. They talk a lot about what to expect from the union in terms of communication and information if indeed we do strike. If we get a deal, if we negotiate and bargain a deal, then I will also have some people on to discuss what that deal is, the points of that deal. There will be a opinion for signing the deal, for approving the deal. Just because there's a deal that has been bargained doesn't mean that it's right. Okay, so we'll have people on to discuss. Here's the thing. If we do strike, I want everyone to know solidarity is paramount. Solidarity, 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 solidarity. I've been saying again and again and again, united we bargain, divided we beg. United we bargain, divided we beg. And so what that means is, a really great tactic to break up solidarity is to have people start fighting within the union. There's like a lot of things that happen in terms of people in the media being pit against each other, and that chatter can occur, causes a lot of strife and weakens our bargaining power. So what you want if a strike happens is you want everybody on the lines as much as possible all the time. I will be on the lines. I will see you on the lines if a strike happens. But yes, you do not need to be a union actor to hit the lines in solidarity if SAG-AFTRA does strike, and the more people that hit the lines, the better. So just a heads up on what to expect. We will find out midnight the 12th. I wouldn't expect to get much before then, and we will know at that time whether or not we have bargained a deal or whether or not we are in fact going to strike. Nobody knows what's happening except for the people in the room. Meanwhile, preparations for a strike are being made just in case that happens. Anything else is speculation, FYI. All right, by the time you listen to this, we're not currently on strike. I hope you're on your way to an audition, and I hope you book it!
Audrey helps actors because they don't know anything.
Hi, everybody. I'm Audrey Moore with the Audrey Helps Actors podcast, and today we have...
Hi, I'm Ollie Burrow.
Hi, honey. So good to see you.
Good to see you, too.
I am so glad that you agreed to do this podcast. We haven't had anyone on yet who's about to exit the conservatory and enter the business of acting. So how do you feel? You graduate in May?
I graduate in May, and I'm gearing up towards graduation now.
Great. Okay, tell everyone a little bit about yourself. Tell them where you're currently in school, what your plans are, what you're studying, what your thoughts are. Tell everybody everything.
Sure. I am from Little Rock, Arkansas, and I am now attending school at Pace University, where I will be graduating with a BFA in acting in just a few months.
How exciting. Are you excited, terrified, nervous, scared? Tell me how you're feeling.
I'm excited. I'm really not terrified or nervous at all, which may be naive, but I'm excited to move on to my next chapter and stop doing all the schoolwork and papers and all of that sort of thing.
Wonderful. And have you been having fun in acting conservatory?
Yes, absolutely. It's a lot of fun. It's very challenging. There's a lot of work. It's very demanding. I think another big part of the fun is like personal growth and like seeing that I've changed from when I came in. That's sort of, there's proof in the pudding, and that's fun in hindsight, you know? It's fun to be like, oh, success, you know, I've gotten better, I'm getting better.
Absolutely. Yeah. To me, it's one of the most fun parts is the continuing to improve, continuing to get better. You know, art is so cool in that you can deepen and deepen and deepen and deepen your skills forever.
Yeah, totally.
One of the other things that we had discussed was your gender identity and its representation within the entertainment industry. So I'd love to have any kind of conversation that you want to have about that.
Sure, yeah. So I am graduating, and part of that is a showcase. So we have a digital showcase and an in-person showcase in which we perform a few scenes that get sent out to casting directors, managers, and agents nationwide. So I wanted to showcase my identity in these scenes because that's something that I'm going to be going out for in the world. I consider myself non-binary and genderqueer, or genderqueer, whatever floats your boat. And personally, my pronouns, I don't really care too much. Use whatever you want. That is me speaking for me only, though. I'm not a monolith, you know? But I've been looking for so much material for non-binary characters represented in TV, in film, in theater, and there are not very many at all. There's a character on Billions. I can't remember their name, but the character on The Umbrella Academy. And the rest of the characters are either from animation or sci-fi. And I think it's problematic because the only way that we are looked at or accepted in today's representation in the media is if we are non-human. You know, if we're some ethereal, magical creature or an alien or a half man, half woman, you know, deity, or if we're drawn in animation, if we're a hot dog, and then next to it says no gender, you know, so there you go, it's non-binary. That's sort of the non-binary representation I've seen, which is different than trans representation in the media. And a lot of times those two get lumped together, and they're not the same thing.
I'd love for you to talk more about that.
I think that people in breakdowns will lump characters into the same umbrella because of their either own personal bias or because they're unsure of what they want. So they, you know, say, let's have a trans, non-binary, female-presenting performer audition for this. And it's just like, what do you want? You know, what do you want here? What are you looking at? And we're living in a weird time where non-binary people are being discussed in politics, in music, in social interactions. It's within our zeitgeist, but it's not reflected in television or film. I've seen some characters in theater. There's some in And Juliet and in Head Over Heels and Hedwig, you know, all musicals, but not very much in film or TV. But commercial does have some non-binary performers in it. I saw an Uber commercial the other day, and I was like, hey.
So usually commercials are on the forefront of whatever the, like, consumer trends are. Because they're directly trying to sell today's market directly who exists. And so usually what you see is music and commercials taking hold of things a little bit earlier. Also, it's a short snapshot. And so it's not a story. So, like, for lack of a better word, like, inclusion can be easier because you can kind of be a little lazier with it in terms of development. It's just an Uber driver picking someone up and taking somebody somewhere.
Right.
It's not a 22 episode arc about somebody who is a doctor and also non-binary.
Right. I've been seriously researching the crap out of this for the past 2-3 months. And I've seen, you know, Grey's Anatomy episode where the patient is non-binary and that's the theme of the episode. And it's because we're living in a strange time in which my identity is trendy and it is commodifiable. You know, it's something that they could throw in one episode and it's sort of like a strange twist. It's never an earnest conversation. I think the best representation, and this isn't even non-binary people, but of trans people that I've seen is on Pose. And I just rewatched Pose. I just think it's beautiful. That's just a sidebar, but I just think it's such a wonderful show. But yeah, there's not very much representation for non-binary characters.
I do know that sci-fi, fantasy fiction are always on the forefront of those things. And they do help to at least visually get audiences
familiar.
Right.
But they're still neglecting to have the conversation. And they're still neglecting to put the spotlight on that, you know? So it's great to sort of see, but what does it mean? And who's it for? It's not for me. It's for cis people to sort of be entertained.
That's right. Like you said, who's it for? And also, we just don't know. What are they getting told no on? How far are they allowed to go, some of these creatives? And just taking it as far as they can get the green light to go. And as things progress, hopefully we get further.
Who's holding up the red light? Is it producers?
It's executives. It has to do with a few things. So if we're talking about network television, we're directly talking about advertisers. So do you know what upfronts are?
Please explain.
Okay, great. So traditionally, there was a thing called pilot season. And what would happen was the pilots that had gotten selected for the year, those pilots would then get filmed and shot and edited, and then the networks would decide which ones are going to be like on our schedule come September. Okay, so why do our new shows begin in September? Do you know?
No. Is that when school's back? So people are back into their routines?
Everyone thinks it's because that's when school's back, but it's actually because that's when the new car models get rolled out.
Oh, so they need more advertisements for the Hyundai, whatever.
The question is television there for ads, or are ads there for television? And the answer is television is there for ads. So what happens is they'll take their shows, their network shows that are going to air from 8 till 11, depending on the time zone, their primetime shows, and they will take them to what's called upfronts. And that's where the advertisers will decide which ones they want to get behind, essentially. And that's who makes it on the air. That's who gets the better time slots. That's who gets the better section. So it's very much still dominated by advertising. And of course, if you're talking about advertising, it's not in their best interest to take risks. They want things that can get the most eyeballs possible. Period. It's not about niche, it's about volume. So who will sit down and watch the show and watch the commercials of this show, and how can I get the most people to watch the commercials of this show?
Right. And then these same advertisers put out a Pride campaign later that year.
Exactly. No, I remember when I started seeing everything at the stores, and I was like, oh, I see, capitalism woke up and discovered
queer people's money.
Yeah, I have no higher expectations on corporations. I get their job is money, their interest is money. It is what it is. I'm not going to be able to fight it. That's exhausting. So my expectations of them are not that they would do anything other, but that does change the trajectory of what then makes it on air for network television. And that's why you'll see in streaming, because traditionally there haven't been advertisers, but what's happened in streaming is that they've discovered that they can't continue to grow business on just subscriptions alone. That advertising revenue is an important part of growth and continued growth. So over the next several years, we are already seeing, and we're going to continue to see, the advertising that ruled networks will slowly but surely begin to rule our streaming content as well. And whenever you've got advertisers involved, the watering down of points of view and risks and representation is always occurring. It also, the pendulum swings, and I am encouraged by more and more creative voices in the writer, director, producer, creator space, because that's such a big part of it. But it is a challenge if the name of the game is capitalism, and capitalism means biggest bang for the buck, and then you want the largest amount of eyeballs on your product, and then you have a minority group of non-binary representation, and they're just not going to get the advertising weight that they would get if that was the majority group.
Mm-hmm. And you know what? That is my personal marketing strategy to pitch myself to representation, is that there's a hole in the market, and I'm here to fill it.
I love it.
I seriously know very few characters on TV specifically that are non-binary. I think there's a character on Queer as Folk who's non-binary. It's a bit bleak, but at the same time, I think it's a pretty good marketing strategy, Like you were saying, there's going to be a swing. We're living in a very restrictive time. In my hometown of Arkansas, where Sarah Huckabee Sanders is the governor, they're putting restrictions on pronouns. They have defined what a woman is and what a trans woman is and what a drag queen is for themselves. They are banning books. Abortion laws have gotten so much worse. And I'm hoping that in 5-10 years' time, when I'm hoping to have more momentum in my career, there will be an opening in the market.
Yes. And you had also asked about, can your photos and materials represent a spectrum of gender identity? And I don't remember how you put it. It was very good. Can you ask that question again? Because I thought it was very good.
Sure. I can play a large, not on stage or film, but in life, play a large array of physical appearances, so I can appear very masculine, I can appear very feminine, and that's all part of my identity, which is why it's alarming to queer and trans folk to be told consistently as an actor, market yourself, put yourself in a box. You are one thing, which goes against my existence. I'm not one thing, I'm everything. So when you are pitching yourself for representation, how do you get that across? In headshots, in cover letter, in resume, whatever. How do you get your essence across? And I think that can go for everyone, not just, gender queer or trans folk. Nobody is just one thing. Nobody's the girl next door. This one's making me sick. I'm so sick of hearing it. But what is it? Manic Pixie Dream Girl? I'm so sick of hearing it.
That's funny. I didn't realize it was back.
You thought it left with Girl Interrupted, but it didn't. It stayed.
I thought it left with a new girl. I thought it left with Zooey Deschanel's television explosion. That's really funny. And so what is the conclusion and path? Because your headshots, as you and I discussed, I love them. I thought they were a wonderful representation of your varied authenticity. And I was really excited when I saw them before we met because I felt they had risks in them and also authenticity and a clear point of view.
That's so funny that you say risks because that's just how I dress, But in terms of rules of headshots, yeah, I guess so.
Right. I can't tell you the number of people that I meet who come from conservatory, and I see their photos, and they're like in the same velvet wrap dress that they probably wore for their music theater recital their senior year with their character shoes, and then their hair is back in a low bun with these small gold dangly earrings.
And then their face smoothed to hell.
Totally smoothed out. And then I go onto their Instagram, and their Instagram is full of how unique they are. Their Instagram is oh, there you are. That's what you look like. That's who you are. That's your personality. That's your expression. And this velvet dress, hair in a bun, situation is nowhere to be found on the Instagram. So I think it's risky for people because they feel like they have to take this idea of what, for some reason, they're told is a neutral headshot or something like that. I don't know what, I honestly don't know what is happening. I don't know where
they get that. Me either. You know what it is? I think it's that people lose trust in themselves. And lose self-confidence in some degree. And when you're getting your headshots, it's expensive. So you feel scared that you're going to mess it up, that you're going to wear something that has a wrinkle in it, God forbid. Or I don't know. Also, shout out to Suburban Photography for my headshots. They are incredible. If you're living in New York, go to them. They were awesome. I did all my hair and makeup for them. I just wore clothes that made me feel my best. I wore clothes that I would go on a date with somebody in. There was no way I was going to be wearing, this is my nurse outfit. This is my lawyer outfit.
And here's what I want to say to everyone. If nurse outfit and lawyer outfit is good for you, then great. Because there are people that is true for. There are some people that their headshots should look like they rolled up to the J.C. Penney's in Milwaukee and went to the J.C. Penney's portrait studio in their outfit that they got from Walmart and just took a little snapshot because it's their casting and it's a character and an expression that they love to perform as. And so great. And if your agent is telling you that they want those photos and you strongly feel against it, then I would say that's a discussion between you and your agent. But if your agent wants photos like that and then you're working, great. Wonderful. And that's why it's so hard and you get so many contradictory pieces of information, is because everything works for all the people.
Right. Do you. Be confident in what you're doing, and your eye or your taste level or your essence or whatever you want to call it will come out. I think that lack of self-trust being a performer is so common because especially coming out of a conservatory program where every day you are critiqued in some way. And it's all good things, but every day somebody is going to say, you could have done this. Here's my opinions, which is so valuable. But at the end of the day, you have to know for yourself what you like.
Well, you have to have your own artistic point of view. And what I want to say to people is it seems to me like, Ollie, you have a strong sense of self and artistic point of view. And a lot of people just don't have that. And so I think that's why people get into generalization. It's not even that they're scared to be, quote, who they are. It's that they haven't developed their strong personal point of view yet. And that's part of the development of your career, is taking headshots and they don't work, and you take new ones and they don't work, and you take new ones and they don't work. And it's unfortunate because it's expensive, but you kind of got to play around a little bit to discover what both your taste is, your style is, and also whether or not that is working. And any particular person may not be in a casting right when they graduate from college that is quote unquote like in. Like you had said, you felt like your identity and expression is kind of on trend right now. It's like popular. And that may not be true for a lot of people graduating. And that doesn't mean there's anything wrong with anyone. I always use the example of kale. Like kale existed for decades, hundreds of years. And then suddenly in 2010, it was like the world woke up and was like, kale. And then for the next 7 years, it was all kale all the time, everywhere you went. And now kale is fine. It's neither something that you just put on the side of your plate as a garnish that you would never touch, nor is it the miracle superfood. It's like an option at the grocery store. Now, kale didn't change. Kale was kale in the 70s. Kale was kale in 2010. Kale is kale in 2023. It's the same kale. But whether or not it was something people were consuming and making and buying was just whatever it was. And so it's very hard in the business because you can have your quote unquote authentic self and nobody cares. And you're not sure if nobody cares because there's something wrong with you, or if nobody cares because maybe the work isn't up to par. Nobody is sure. All you know is internally it feels like nobody cares, and that can be very challenging to maintain.
Yeah, I think to maintain is the important part of that. How long can you sustain that without feeling some sort of personal defeat,
Yeah, some sort of inadequacy.
I do see some of my classmates who know who they are, but just don't trust that it's enough. And there are people who, have that artistic self and they have that developed, but they just don't trust that it's interesting enough, or that it's marketable enough, or that it's in right now. And it might not be, but who cares? Continue doing what you're doing and continue making the work that you want to create. And then on the business side of things, be savvy. Use your business mind for that, and use your heart and creative mind for your own projects and that sort of thing.
Or make other people's projects your projects. You can use your creative mind, and hopefully that's what you get paid the big bucks for, is using your creative mind on someone else's sides. Using your creative mind on someone else's writing, someone else's directing. And then the collaboration of those things is what makes something really magical. Not just you doing your own work, but you doing your own work in tandem with others doing their own work.
Right. That's also a great way to just meet new people. I had a production meeting earlier today with this artist that I know, and it was sort of our first time ever meeting or talking, and it was great, and she's awesome. She helped me so much, and there's so much that I don't know on the tech side of things, of lighting and flags and lavs and boom mic and all these other things that you need to record a reel. And she totally walked me through it. So easy.
But wait, Ollie, wait. I have to interrupt you. This Picket Line Check-In is brought to you by Casting Frontier. I've made a lot of money booking jobs off of Casting Frontier. Thank you, Casting Frontier, and all those casting directors who use it, and all of those agents that have gotten me jobs through Casting Frontier. Love it. It is one of the largest casting call listing services in the United States, and you can find top commercial, digital, film, print, and TV projects. A Premium Plus membership includes unlimited headshots, love that, unlimited role submissions, love that, unlimited video action clips, one featured video reel, unlimited headshot changes, one link to a website, one voice reel, online resume, and custom profile link. Go to castingfrontier.com/Audrey and use promo code Audrey50 for $50 off a Premium Plus membership. Listen, I know so many of you on here use Casting Frontier. You already use it. You're already using it and you're paying for it. Please just take $50 and keep it. Use Audrey50 to take $50 and keep it yourself. You're already using it, so save money, please. All right, calls with your strike stories or questions, 667-ACTOR-70. That's 667-228-6770.
Hey, this is Abby Gumper. I am calling in from New York. I had such a blast meeting you, Audrey, and so many other actors at the picket line at City Hall. So I'm just calling with my utmost support for the writers. Standing with the writers, standing with SAG-AFTRA if we decide to strike. Woohoo! Union strong! Bye.
And now back to your regularly scheduled program.
I want to circle back to Marketplace real quick. So after our discussion about market research, what are some takeaways that you feel like people should consider or understand, or that your classmates are ruminating on with regards to choosing a market?
I think it's important to know what's filming in your location. You actually had a good website, I think.
I did. I'll post it again. We'll post it in the show notes, everybody.
Show notes. But yeah, there's a website that you can look up and see what's filming in your area. And I think that seeing where you can be a local hire too is important. If you have friends or family in Los Angeles and you're in New York, submit for Los Angeles, guest stars, co-stars, whatever you want it to be.
The only thing I'd say about Los Angeles as a local hire, and this is similar to New York, but definitely Los Angeles, I think that we discussed, is that Los Angeles doesn't want you outside of Los Angeles because they're nervous that they're not going to be able to get you to Los Angeles in time. So when I tape for something, I literally have to say, hi, my name is Audrey Moore. I am standing in Los Angeles. I have to tell them I'm physically here because enough productions got burned by people being outside of the market and saying that they were Los Angeles based, and then they booked a job and couldn't get a COVID test and get to a fitting and get to everything on time because the production moved so fast.
Well, maybe scratch that one then. Or, you submit to it. Say, hi, I'm Ollie Burrow. I'm currently in New York. I am considered a local hire in LA if hired, and I'll be there shortly. Thank you.
What are some reasons why people are choosing various markets in your class? What are some reasons to go to LA? What are some reasons to go to New Mexico? What are some reasons to go to Atlanta?
I know that Atlanta is a right-to-work state.
Do you know the history of right-to-work states?
Why don't you explain it for us?
Oh my God, I can't wait.
I knew. I could see it in your eyes.
So right-to-work states, the very name right-to-work is actually anti-union propaganda. The title of right-to-work is something that is coined in order to disenfranchise unions because it's to say you can be union or non-union and you can work whichever contract you want. But in so doing, its objective is to weaken union strength because if you can work a union job or a non-union job, no matter what you are, then what is the impetus for anyone to work union? And in so doing, what almost always happens, as you could sort of see in COVID, of the states that had the least union backing were also the states that had no unemployment income to give out to anyone. So traditionally, these are states that have a heavy history in exploiting workers. And so a right-to-work state is set up to do exactly that. The union essentially is set up to set the floor, so you can't pay people less than that. And that's the only thing holding up the bare minimum in something like our industry. And so when you have a right-to-work state, which again is actually a right to work for less, is what its nickname is within the industry. In a right to work for less state, obviously your pay is much, much lower, and your rights and safety are also lower. So something for people to consider. What most people find is it's maybe not as challenging to break into a market with a right to work for less state, but then becoming a professional is pretty impossible because they're not paying anyone for what they should be paid for the job.
And New Mexico as well, it's a bit easier to break out there just because of competition, just less competition in general. And then there are obvious advantages to moving to LA.
And what are those?
That's just where everything's being shot. You know, that's just where everything's being filmed. But here's my hope. I can't remember if it was Amazon or Hulu opened up a facility here. Do you know which one it was?
Both, I think. In New Jersey? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. And I'm hoping Netflix will come here too, and that it won't be so heavy on one side. There'll be more things in New York filming in the future.
Here's why I just honestly think that that's not likely. I'm gonna
Here
tell you
she goes again,
why.
crushing souls, folks.
Here's honestly why is actually it has to do with something very simple, which is weather.
There are plenty of depressing, moody shows. Grey's Anatomy is all...
It's not about depressing or moody. It's about whether or not the weather allows you to film.
Right. That's very interesting. I haven't thought about that before.
Yeah, it's why New Mexico does so well, is New Mexico also doesn't have rain.
Continuity.
Well, not just continuity, sound.
Yeah.
Huge sound issues. Safety, people being able to get to and from sets.
What about sound stages?
Well, I was going to say they make it happen in Vancouver. You know, it's a winter wonderland over there. They definitely have the infrastructure there. But I'm definitely not holding out for New Jersey and that area because it's very expensive. And I think if production flight's going to happen, I think it's going to continue to happen to places where it's cheaper to film there than it is to film in places that are already structurally set up. So that's why you're seeing things like New Mexico. It's cheaper to film there than it is in Los Angeles. It's cheaper to film in Canada than it is in New York or Los Angeles. So that's why they're going to those areas. And New Jersey is not known for being remarkably cheap area.
Yeah, there's about like 20 to 30 shows that film in New York, if that. And then pretty much everything else is filmed in LA in terms of streamers and network television.
Yeah, about 90 shows filming in Los Angeles.
Yeah. In terms of film, I guess that can be anywhere.
Yeah, that's mostly overseas.
Yeah, right? We're also living in a cool time where I can audition for things self-tape wise all over the place.
Yes, that's right.
And I could submit in the same day, guest star for a TV show, and then something for a commercial or for a commercial voiceover.
Absolutely.
And I think it's important to not just like see your career as one thing. You know, I will be an actor. What does that mean? You know, like, what does it mean to be an actor? Does that mean that you're always acting? Absolutely not. I think probably 5% of the time I'm actually acting. The rest of the time I'm emailing. That's what acting is emailing.
That's right. Well, that's wonderful. Okay, so I am going to let you get back to school, but before I'm going to ask you the questions that I wrap up with.
Okay.
So my first question is, do you have any social media that you would like people to follow you on?
Absolutely. You can follow me at Ollie Burrow on Instagram. I also am uploading my website later this week, ollieburrow.com, and you can find lots of other stuff on there.
Will you spell your name for everybody?
Sure, it is OLLIE space BURROW, like a hole in the ground.
Okay,